Hello everyone, this is Akira, this is Megumi, and we are doing another class for summer noodles, continuing from previous class. Like in the summer, like it's hot, it's humid, like it's very nasty, and it's very hard for ramen shops to, keep up the sales, compared to other seasons when it's cold. Like, 'cause the main product of ramen shops are basically very hot, right? How can we, keep up sales and how can we keep like customers attracted to, ramen shops and, what we offer? So that's what we're doing today. And the previous class, last class, we did cold noodles. So today we're doing like spicy hot noodles. Okay, so let's dive in. So we have some interesting noodles. Megumi is gonna be making today. So stay tuned for that. And so what we're doing today is that I'm just gonna go through the what I wrote in the whiteboard, and then Megumi gonna make some interesting noodles, and that's what's watching. And gonna move to kitchen where we have an instructor waiting for us to show us some more spicy noodle dish. So like it's summer, right? And it's hot, and like it's inevitable for ramen shops to lose some sales over people like who are avoiding like hot food to eat, right? Like during like hot days, that's natural. But what we are seeking, right, during the hot days is that something cold, something cool, and something hot. So it's like that's sounds contrary to what we are kind of wanting, right? What we want like during the hot days, but hot like eating like food, like spicy food, like kind of helps us like kind of sweat a lot, that cools down our body, right? So that kind of makes sense. And we also look for something sour or something like with some acidity, right? Some citrus and stuff like that. And so today we are doing spicy noodles. And it's not just normal spicy noodles like we see like a ramen shop, but like we are doing like some Chinese hand pulled style spicy noodles. So what this is that like we are adding chili powder 4%, right? And then 96% is just wheat flour, right? Wheat flour like that we use for ramen noodles. And of course, like wheat flour, we are talking about protein content. Well, the higher, the harder. And then viscosity value, that tells you how bouncy the noodle that you're making with your white wheat flour is going to be, or viscous value. That's very important too. And the liquid ingredients. So we have water, currency, and salt, right? And currency and salt. So we all talked about it before, but like currency, the kind of currency. Well, there are many types, but like the kind of currency we are using is this type, and that's basically the combination of potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate. For those of you who don't know what currency is, we have to add to your noodles to call your noodles, ramen. So you have to have it like in your noodles, but like basically potassium carbonate, sodium carbonate. Potassium carbonate basically does tighten the gluten, like makes it hard and increases the bounciness of the noodles and makes the color of your noodles to be yellow, and it also gives some smell that some people don't like, pleasant smell. And sodium carbonate basically the opposite effect. So soft makes your noodles soft, moist, and it gives you like less coloring. I mean, compared to the potassium carbonate. So we sort of blend these two like at different ratios, like kind of balancing them depending on what size of noodle. Basically, what size of noodle you're making is like thinner. We are making hard. We want to make them harder, so like we increase the amount of potassium carbonate. Then we decrease the amount of sodium carbonate, right? But when we are making like thicker noodles, we want to make it softer, so we want to increase the amount of sodium carbonate. And so instead of currency, we sometimes like add salt and real Chinese like hand pulled style noodles, they add they don't add like any concentrate at all, and but instead like they add like salt. What salt does to your noodles is that like it tightens the gluten, and which increases bounciness, and it regulates the like it has like an enzyme in the wheat flour that like breaks the protein of wheat, and it like kind of makes like really dull, like it's that it like makes like really soft. So it kind of regulates that protein breaking enzyme, and it keeps down the bacteria activities to keep it from like getting spoiled, and it promotes sweet flavor, which is a good thing, and then you also keep dough from breaking when it gets dry. So a lot of good things that like we can have like adding salt into the flour, but in this case, like we added like a little bit less concentrate than usual, 0.5% and 1.0% of like salt, and that's to the total weight of the solid. And hydration itself, right, is 40% to the weight of the salt. I mean the solid ingredients. So, for example, if you're doing like 10 kilograms of solid ingredients, right, the amount of liquid you're adding is 4 kilograms, right? 4 kilograms. And inside 4 kilograms, you have like 98% of water, 0.5% concentrate, 1% salt. So that's liquid ingredients and solid ingredients. And yeah, and then so yeah, the hand pull style noodles. So that needs to be like soft enough for human beings to be like to be able to like pull it, right? Pull the dough to kind of making the shape of noodles, right? So we have the hydration ratio of like 40%, which is maybe like a little too low for like you to be able to pull it a bit too hard, but like um, but it's we're gonna make it like into in our ramen machine, so like it's not a problem. Um, but look at the noodle section, right? Like that the width, right? Width is gonna be like 30 millimeter, like 30 centimeters, and the thickness, right, is just 1 millimeter. So like it's gonna be like a really wide flat noodles. And when we cook these noodles, right, the cooking water actually, well, penetrates the noodles from the sides where there's a rough surface, because that's where the noodles, the dough gets cut. So there's a rough surface. That's where the water, right, the water or the soup or like the cooking water comes into the noodles, like dough, then how it's get. So like, kind of takes time to, well, for the water to reach the core of the noodle, but that's how we see it. And then so the cooking time maybe like a bit longer, even though the thickness like just 1 millimeter. And you can use this type of noodle like in regular noodle soup, and to give it like dipping noodles and soupless ramen. So yeah, that's what we're making. And yeah, so let's make this noodle, this hand pull style noodle, so on our ramen machine. Okay, so the ramen machine that we're going to use today is called Richmond Gold 1, Richmond Gold 1, like we have Richmond Gold 2, but this is the first version. And yeah, so it's making me prepare the ingredients. So like, let's go over the ingredients, and then this is the flour, right? The ramen flour, like flour you use for ramen noodles, has relatively high protein content, and like around like 11% to like 12%, and water, just water, right? Um, so for the water, we add the kansi, right, and the salt. And look at this amount of chili powder we add into the flour. So this is 4%, like for the yeah, like, so these two would be like 4 kilograms of solid ingredients. Okay, so let's first make dough. So spicy noodle dough with a lot of chili powder in it. So this is like pure chili powder. There's nothing else in it, like the only chili peppers in it. And so what we do is that like we just mix it, mix the solid ingredients like by themselves like first without adding any liquid to it. And while for 1 minute, right? And while we do that, it means dissolving this calcium salt in water, making this solution. Yeah, so this machine has this 10 kilograms mixer, right? 10 kilograms mixer, and the minimum batch is 4 kilograms. That's 4 kilograms of solid ingredients. And on top of it, you're adding the liquid to it, right? And so notice like she just poured that liquid onto the lid, right? Lid like which had like small holes to allow the liquid to drip through to the flowers, right? Like little by little, because we don't want to add like all the liquid all at once, right? And then like we're not gonna have like dough that's hydrated like kind of evenly, because that's what we are trying to do like in this mixing process. And so when we prepare this dough in advance, that's great. And so look at the color. The color that's very hellish color. The it's is it orange or like is it like yeah? It's more like orange than red. Yeah, so this is a chili powder. So I wish you guys were here to like kind of smell the dough. It's very smell like yeah, it smells like definitely like chili powder, chili pepper. So she's setting the roller gap like on this like touch panel, and and then it just does the rest of the process like automatically. And so this machine has like auto feeding system, so that like um, it can well this machine like feeds the dough like adequate amount of dough like at the time, gradually, so that like you're not adding like too much dough like at the time like or like too less the dough like them so like that would like break the dough sheet. But this machine can like has a sensors to detect like how much dough like being fed right to the roller, and so that like this conveyor belt like kind of moves like kind of well the speed that's the like most suitable for the amount of dough to be fed to the roller. Yeah, so what we're doing now is just like we are making like rough sheet of dough. Yeah, it's a rough sheet of dough, and that's the first step. It's the first step, and you may be able to notice that through the screen that like the dough is like still pretty fragile. Like it's very very fragile, and but we want to make it firm. We want to make it like really tough, like strong. So what we do now is to separate it, right? Separate it in two sheets, and then combine them. Combine these two separate sheets into one through the rollers. So it's like applying good pressure into the like two separate sheets of dough, and turning it into like one sheet, and then that's how we like make it firm. Okay, so we're combining these two sheets dough, right? And it's coming out for like so the dough that's coming out like very, I mean, the smoother and definitely more firm than before. Yeah, so the when you're making this type of noodles, like what you should be like concerned about is that like the um, the level like moisture the certain ingredients like contains, and like comparing with the moisture level of flour. Moisture level of flour is like is is usually like 14 to like 15% on average. But like this chili powder, right? Chili powder, like it's probably a lot less, right? It's drier, definitely drier. Than here while using that kind of ingredients, right? And then, you know, and like like okay, you've made like raw noodles before, and you think that like okay, so I'll do that 5% of this like chili powder, and then if you think okay 35% hydration, and that's going to be like soft enough, right? But then, because of the like level of moisture of the chili powder, by adding like 5% of it, it's that's going to make it like kind of the dough like way drier than like like regular like 35% hydration dough. So it's like, yeah, and then if you're like, yeah, if you're doing like other types of like ingredients, for example, like we did like yeah, we did like a kale powder, like the green kale powder, and I think like it's a bit more moist than the chili powder, and we did the black sesame powder, and which is not really that moist, but like compared to like chili powder, but like it has like kind of like oily kind of property to it. So depending on what you use, right? Yeah, you should be careful about like hydration ratio, and what kind of texture you're trying to achieve like in the final texture, like when they made noodles. So okay, so this is the second round like combining process, and you maybe will notice that like we started like dusting the yeah, dusting on it, right, to keep it from sticking. Okay. So after the second combine process, all we have to do is just pin it, pin the dough to the final thickness and cut it. So we just keep going, right? Keep going, and the final thickness, like we're aiming at, is like 1 millimeter. So we need to keep going. And so that is, well, that was one, well, like that was like 2 millimeter roller gap, right? And then so now we're thinning at like 1.5 millimeter. So it's very easy for you to be able to like make dough that's like like chili powder needed, like, or for example, like the black one, like squid ink needed, the like the sesame, black sesame powder needed in, or like even like charcoal, or like the seaweed powder in green, and yeah, the kale powder we did, right? And then um, yeah, and then like we also did the oh my God, I forgot. Yeah, but like no, it's very easy, like to just because you have to just make put that ingredients into the mixing process, like to make dough. And good thing about it is like that it's still just color, but also the flavor, the taste, right? And so was 1.5 that was 1.5 millimeter, and now it's like 1.9 millimeters. So like there's a 0.4 millimeter gap between the roller gap set and the actual thickness of the dough. And so the final thickness, like, remember, like, that's 1.0 millimeter, right? So um, yeah, now we know like how much dough, right, um, is going to expand after it's going through the roller gap, 0.4 millimeter. So we know that, like, well, okay, so if we take in at like 0.6 millimeter roller gap, and you know it's going to expand by zero point 0.4, right? So the final thickness should be 1.0 millimeter. So we set that roller gap to 0.6, and then look at this, the cutter, right? This is square number one cutter, and so each noodle strand is going to be 30 millimeter in width. So that's really wide. Okay, so the noodles are coming out. Like it is noodle like 30 millimeter width. Look, and then we are making the length of noodle like long, really long, like on purpose. It's like the hand pull noodles, right? Hand pull style noodles, like they are usually long. Like you know, some people say that like, well, some people like make it like as long as like 2 meters or something. So yeah, but like we don't we don't cut it like a 2 meter length, but like um, we just want to kind of like make him to like closer to the real thing. And yeah, of course, like this machine can like adjust the length of the noodles, and then make it shorter for smaller serving size, make it longer for like a bigger serving size. It's just a touch of the volume, but like it's very easy to do that. But like um, just for this purpose, right? The hand pull noodles, we make them longer. And by changing the cutter, right? By changing the cutter, you can, of course, like change the noodle size. Um, for example, like if you just like change the cutter right now to, let's say like number 10, uh, each noodle strand is going to be like 3 millimeter in width, right? 3 millimeter in width. It's going to be like way narrower, but like, um, you know, it's kind of fun to kind of mix different noodle sizes like in the same bowl. Um, but cooking time may be like different, but like it's kind of fun to do that. So that was well, actually, that was like 2 kilograms of like raw flour, the batch, making me made, right? For just for this kind of demonstration purpose. And out of 2 kilograms of dough, I mean yeah, I know flour. So we got about like 20, probably 20 servings. Like even though like that's long. Okay, so that's wow. Okay, so let's go to the kitchen and then yeah, let's try this noodle. So it's to our kitchen and then we have our chief instructor, Mr. Ikeda, for school, and so this is our kitchen, like where we teach like in person, ramen school, udon school, and yeah, so chief instructor Mr. Ikeda, he's gonna show us a spicy cold tsukemen noodles.
よろしくお願いします。はい。今日は辛い、冷たいつけ麺の方を作っていきます。レシピは、このような感じでございます。
So today we're gonna make like spicy cold tsukemen noodles. Yeah, so we have like recipes like in English and Japanese.
でベースは、鶏の、澄んだ綺麗なスープです。
Yeah, so that soup stock, right, that we're gonna use that's the whole chicken light clear soup.
で今日はそこにサバ節という節とウルメ節という、魚の節ですね。こちらを入れて、味と香りをつけていきます。
Yeah, so like we're gonna add the saba mackerel and rume fish flakes, just 1% to the weight of the stock, like inside the stock, right? In the stock, and we cook them to add the flavors of these fish flakes into the stock.
では実際にまずスープの方からですね、ちょっと仕込みの方を紹介していきます。
Okay, so let's start with the stock. It's a prep.
こちらが丸鶏のスープですね。
So this is the light chicken, clear whole chicken stock.
でここにサバ節とウルメ節ですね、それぞれを入れていきます。
Okay, so adding mackerel and rume fish flakes.
で、このスープ自体はそのままもちろんラーメンで使えるんですけども、つけ麺は少し濃いめのスープなどで肉にして、まあ、節の味を足したりとか、ちょっと煮詰めることによって、肉の濃度を上げていく。
Right, so like we can use this whole chicken clear stock like just by itself, right? But like this is really tsukemen soup. So for tsukemen soup, like we need to like kind of intensify the flavor and taste. So it's a good idea for us to be able to add this kind of fishy flavors to kind of couple with the tsukime noodles.
500グラムもともとスープ用意してるんですけども、少し煮詰めて、大体300ぐらいですかね、やるぐらいまでちょっと入り。
So it was 500 grams that we prepared this whole chicken clear stock, but I'm gonna boil it down to probably around 300 grams.
で、こちらが、通して冷やしたものですね。
And to save you guys time, this is the finished stock.
今日は冷たい麺もスープもですね、両方冷たい成分になりますので、スープの方もしっかり冷やしています。
Yeah, so the tsukimi dish we're gonna make today is that it's gonna be the soup is cold and the noodles is gonna be cold.
では次ですね、スープに味をつける合わせですね、今から。
Okay, so now I'm going to do the kind of seasoning part of the soup, right? And then so
先ほどね、ちょっとレシピの方で紹介しましたけども、こちらが元ダレですね。いろいろなものを用意してます。
yeah, so I explained the recipes motodare. That's going to be the seasoning for the soup.
で、一つ一つ測りながら味の方を作っていきます。
Okay, so I'm gonna measure just one by one to
まずこれ合わせずですね。
okay, first of all that's blended vinegar.
お酢と、あと日本で使うみりんとかですね、そういったものを合わせてちょっと加熱したものです。
Yeah, so this is made out of vinegar and a kind of mirin, heated.
味をまとめるような役割で入れています。
And we add this blended vinegar to sort of kind of sum up all the different tastes.
ニナンプラーですね。
That's
魚の醤油です。
the fish sauce.
旨味の機材ですね。
This is sort of kind of reinforce the umami part of the soup.
ナンプラーは癖が強いので、本当に少量だけになります。
Yeah, so fish sauce kind of has kind of unique flavor. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of it.
でこちらがチャーシューの甘口となっているんですけども、チャーシュー、茹でるチャーシューですね、醤油だれで炊いたチャーシューの、煮汁ですね、そちらの方を使っています。
So the chashu is kind of typically that's a pork meat, right? And then we cook it and to make the topping sliced meat pork meat, right? And we use this sauce, right, to cook the meat, and we also use this sauce as a motodare.
はい、次ですね、醤油の、3種ブレンドということですね。
And it's next one, this is the dark soy sauce. The three different types of ingredients gonna blend it to make that motodare.
醤油の中にいろいろな乾物ですね、3種ということなので、3種類の乾物が入ってるんですけども、醤油に乾物3種類を入れて、寝かせたものですね。
Yeah, so three different kind of dry ingredients are in there, and then we sort of let it sit for some amount of time to complete it.
次に塩昆布ですね。
And this is shio, salt, the kelp
ここ
tare.
に昆布だしを作って、そこに塩とかしたものを持っていただければという。
So imagine we made a really thick kelp dashi, right? And then we added the salt.
次ですね、煮干しです。
Niboshi, that's dry sardine, salt,
刺し
tare.
の煮干し。これも入れていきます。で最後に、煮切りみりんですね。はい。
So lastly, gonna add, evaporated mirin.
ちょっとたっぷりですね。今日は冷たい麺ですので、冷たいと甘みを感じにくくなるので、ちょっと分量的には多くなります。
So this is going to be cold dish. So when it's cold, it's kind of hard for us to kind of taste the sweetness. So I'm adding a lot of it.
で、ここに冷たいスープですね、お注いでいきます。
Okay, so I'm going to pour the cold stock to it.
で、混ぜてここで一旦味見をします。
And just stir it well and then like just taste it first at this point.
でここで味が足りないのであれば、醤油入れていただいたり、塩入れていただいたりですね。あと、色味ですね。こういうような色してますけども、色が足りなかったら醤油を足したりとか調節していきます。
So it's good, it's important like for us to like kind of taste it at this point, right? At that point, and then like if, well, there's like soy sauce like needed, or like if you need to add like a little bit more like salt, and then you can adjust the taste right here. And then another thing, like you need to like check the color, right? Color of the sauce, I mean soup. Then maybe needs like more like darker shade, or so like you can also check for the color.
あくまでスープのレシピは参考レシピなので、スープの取れ具合であったり、タレの醤油であったり、そういったものによって変わりますので、味を見ながら必ず調節するようにしてください。
Yeah, so the soup like kind of varies like from like kind of the what kind of like base stock like you've made, or like what kind of soy sauce that you used and stuff like that. So like you really it's very critical for you to taste it, right? Like taste it like at this point, like after like combining all the tare and the soup, right? And see like how you want to adjust it, or how you want to make it different.
でルールが、これで問題ないようであれば、今一つ一つ調味料を合わせましたけども、今の分量ですね、まとめてたくさん合わせていただいて、そこから一杯分を、ちっちゃいレードルか何かでの分に入れていただいて、でスープ注いでいただくような形で大丈夫です。
So if you think that like taste is okay, like perfect, right? I mean, after you tasting, right, at this point, and then like to make a batch, right? To make a batch like for maybe 10 people, like 100 people, then you just have to like multiply it by 100 or like 10 each ingredients, right? So you can make batch for you know multiple number of people.
で、今日は器はこちら使いたいと思いますので、ちょっとこちらに移しておきます。
Okay, so the soup bowl that I'm gonna use is this one. So I'm gonna transfer the soup to it.
で、香味料がまだ入ってないんですけども、実際提供するときは一緒に元だれと香味料を入れていただいて、スープ注いでいただければ結構です。
Yeah, so I haven't added the flavor oil yet, but like when you are, actually serving this bowl, right? Then you can add these the flavored oil.
すべてですね、香味料ですね。今日はニンニクと長ネギと貝柱です。それぞれ入れます。
Okay, so yeah, these are the flavored oils that like I'm using today: garlic, leek, and the scalp oil.
はい。では、次ですね、麺の方をちょっと入れていきます。
Okay, so let's start cooking noodles.
では、先ほど作っていただいた幅が広い唐辛子が入っていますので、
Okay, so today's noodles are kind of handful style chili noodles.
茹で時間は3分ですね。
So the cooking time is like just 3, or not just, but like 3 minutes.
しっかり沸かしたところに入れて、軽く混ぜたい。あとはそのまま置いていていただければ結構です。
Okay, so make sure that like the water is boiling before you put the noodles in, and then you kind of like stir the noodles, right? Make sure that they're spread.
今日は冷たいつけ麺ですので、しっかり洗って冷やした状態で器に盛り付けていきます。
Okay, so this is going to be like dipping noodles. So like after we cook them, right? We want to wash them to remove starch, and then like chill them, right?
はい。では次ですね、トッピングの方ですね。
Okay, so while the noodles cooking, let me work on the toppings.
ちょっと変わったね、トッピングをちょっとご紹介したいと思います。
Okay, so today's toppings are
今日はですね、ちょっと串に刺したトッピングをご紹介するんですけども、トッピングに使っている材料がこちらですね。
okay. So the toppings I'm going to do is like are kind of squared, toppings like ingredients. So these are the ingredients that I'm going to use today.
オクラ、ナス、シイタケですね。
So these main things like okra and eggplant and shiitake mushroom.
それぞれさっと茹でたり揚げたりした後に、下加熱をした後に、漬け地ですね、だしですね、味をつけただしの中につけて味を含ませてます。
So I kind of like boil them, or kind of like deep fry them, like, and then after that, like, I put them in dashi stock.
はい。で、トマトだけはフレッシュでそのまま使いますが、このようにね、一度茹でていただいたりしてから、漬けていただいても結構です。
Yeah, so the tomatoes are fresh, and like I'm gonna use them like as they are, and then but like all these other stuff, like you can just boil them like or cook them, fry them, like then like put them in marinate them in the dashi stock.
でこちらは豚バラ肉ですね。今日は調味料と香辛料をつけて、ちょっと油で揚げています。
So there's a pork belly. Then I grew them, and then after I put like I spice them out.
でこちらを、一口大に切りまして、このような形でね、串に刺して。
Yeah, so I cut them into like kind of bite size, and then I screw them together to the bamboo stick.
半熟卵、水菜、ネギ、唐辛子ですね。
And the half-boiled egg, and the mizuna, and leek, and the chili.
でこちらを後でレモンつけていきます。
Okay.
では麺がね、もうすぐ上がりますので、洗っていきます。
Okay, so the noodles are almost ready.
はい。では、洗っていきます。
Okay, so I'm gonna wash them.
表面をしっかりこすって、ぬめりを取って、粗めとしっかりと麺を剥いてあげます。
Yeah, so what's important here is that like we want to like wash them like well to get rid of starch, and to get rid of the heat of the noodles.
で水が夏場であまりぬるいようでしたら、洗っていただいた後に氷水かなんかにしっかり麺を締めてあげてください。
Yeah, when it's hot day, and then like the water you run from faucet like is warm, you may want to like kind of chill them like with the ice cubes like after washing.
で洗い終わったらしっかり水分を切ります。
And after washing them, right, make sure like you can squeeze them well to get all the water out.
はい、水分を切ったら器に盛り付けていきます。
Okay, so let's plate them.
はい。ではトッピングを盛り付けていきます。
Okay, so I'm gonna plate it.
こちらですね。
Mizuna.
で、しね。
The skewers. Skewers, right.
はい。卵ですね。
Tanago, the hot cook,
区切りにしたしのり。
and that's leeks. The white pot of leeks,
あとは糸唐辛子ですね。
and on top of it, like I'm putting the strings of chili peppers.
では、僕はこちらの方です
Okay, so
ですので、セット。はい。
so this is the
で、こちらは豆板醤ですね。
so that the paste is this one, the people tobanjiang, but like this is like Chinese that spicy paste that's made of like soybeans and everything.
では、
You can buy it at the store, and yeah.
では冷たい辛い麺ということで、今のスープの方には辛みがないので、こちらをお好みの量を溶きながら食べていただくような形になります。
Yeah, so like soup itself is not that spicy, so I put that like tobanjiang paste, right, and then the melt the tobanjiang paste in the soup, and then we eat it. So this is a cold and spicy tsukemen dish, and it's really spicy. I mean, because the noodles themselves are spicy, and they are not that spicy, but like they the spiciness like comes like probably 10 seconds after you bite into them. Then the tomato paste does a really good job. Um, yeah, spicing up the kind of fishy kind of soy sauce based soup. So this is a very good cold sukimen dish that you can try. Thank you very much. Bye bye.